So I'm currently living in rather a weird situation, or some might think that. I'm living with my ex, not just my ex-boyfriend, my ex-fiancé. We are still living under the same roof, not same room, not that. And it's his roof, actually. So many people will be like, how can you stand that? Don't you want a clean break? Don't you want to get out? Yeah. But I had to stay because I couldn't afford to leave. Couldn't afford a place on my own. So it's actually pretty embarrassing to say I'm a 53-year-old woman who cannot be financially independent. I'm actually, I think, pretty smart, and I'm really good at what I do, but nope, can't move out yet. I do soothe myself, though, with the fact that it's kind of like an author who has to sit home for like a year and write their novel. You know, you're planting the seeds, nurturing the seeds, and one day it's going to happen. Well, when we were together, I had the luxury to do that. But then when we broke up, I'm left with I can't afford to move out. So yeah, it can be a bit awkward. Our breakup was actually pretty abrupt. We were sitting there having dinner one day, thighs touching like they always did, and then broken up after dinner. And so I made plans the very next day with my sister to leave and to go visit her in Ottawa, her and her family, for 6 weeks. It was really important to not be there during Christmas because we'd gotten engaged on Christmas Eve, so I needed to be gone. So there I was in Ottawa in a house full of 6 with 3 pets running around, and I still felt pretty much alone because, as you know, grief is kind of a lonely process. It has to be done by one person and one person alone. But something really good happened while I was there. I had that time away. We barely spoke. We said Merry Christmas. That was it. So when I came back, I was resolved to be different. I realized I had a habit that I wanted to break. And it was a habit from my childhood, where they usually start. This one was about my relationship with my mom. My mom wasn't a very happy person. It's like she had a hole in her bucket, and everything was draining out, and I wanted her to be happy so that I could just be happy and relax, be myself. So I spent my days trying to fill her bucket, going through life looking for all the good things that were happening in my life that I could tell her about to try to let her see that life is good. People are good. Never really happened. But a week before she died, she did call me her angel, and she thanked me for all I had given her. And she even admitted that I was the one who could always make her laugh the most. And that's a treasured memory to hear that, because I never felt like I had tried hard enough to fill her bucket up. You see, she had taught me, unbeknownst to her, kind of a twisted golden rule. Instead of do unto others as you'd have done unto you, it was more of a, look how you made your sister feel, which made me feel responsible for other people's feelings, hence my need to fill the bucket of my unhappy mother. And when she died, on my 42nd birthday, which, yes, felt like a F-U from the universe, I'm like, yay, I always get to link my birthday with the death of my mom. What the hell is that about? I thought she'd planned it. Maybe she did. But a week after she died, I had sort of an epiphany, washing my hair in the shower, going, oh, and I realized that the job that I'd signed up for, she'd never asked me to do this, but the job I signed up for of always trying to fill her bucket was over. So that birthday was actually kind of a rebirth. I didn't have to have that never-ending, never-winnable job. I felt free. Grief, yes, but relieved also. But, old habits, old conditioning die hard. So within a year later, I was off making my vision board and looking for the man in my life. And along came this wonderful man who I immediately felt connected to. On our first date, reaching over, holding hands for the first time. The good news is I thought I was going to throw up. And the reason I thought I was going to throw up is like, oh my God, it's such a strong connection. Sat there distracted in the whole movie, holding his hand going, he's the one. We're that connected. And another favorite memory, 6 months in, we went to New York City together, and I'll never forget walking up the subway stairs. He wound up being a stair ahead, the crowd's jostling, but he just reaches behind to grab my hand. And I'm just like, yeah, we're just going to be connected. And he was as cuddly and snuggly as me. But when I got to really know all about him, it was too late. I was in love. So as it turned out, I was in love with an alcoholic. For 6.5 of our 9 years together, he used and abused alcohol. My parents, they would have adored him. But if they'd known about the alcohol, they would have said, you got to move on, lady. You deserve better than that. Don't be with somebody who's so screwed up who's also hurting you. Not physically, but. My friends probably would have said the same thing. Nobody's really proud to say that they're with an alcoholic. But in a weird way, I was. Because he hooked me. He hooked me in by letting me find another person whose bucket needed filling. He would say, I love you, all the time. But it was always linked with I don't drink when you're around. You inspire me. You motivate me. Well, gee, yeah, I want to inspire and motivate the man I love. Of course I do. I wanted to inspire him or love him enough that his bucket would be full enough that he'd stop drinking, that he could live up to his amazing potential, that we could both live the life of our dreams, and most importantly, so that he'd stop killing himself slowly. How could I leave when he made it sound like he wanted my help and I was part of the solution? And so I stayed. And then I got sick. And it wasn't the pain I was in that was most terrifying. It was like the loss of my job, my career, and of course my money. But he's a good man, and he stayed by me, and he supported me financially. But when I got better, now I felt like I owed him. He stuck by me when I was sick, and essentially you could say he's sick, and I need to stick by him and just try even harder to see all the good in my life and pass it on to him, fill up his bucket. It was like I was living a life that wasn't really for me. It was for me going around looking for all the good things that I could pass on to him, never really absorbing them myself. It was like I was a mama bird, like chewing the food and giving it to him, as if to say, look, okay, clearly your bucket's not very full. Maybe it's got a hole in it, and I've got lots. Here, I'll give you some of mine. Isn't that what it means to love somebody? But I'll tell you, being somebody's mama bird is not really a very sexy thing to be in a romantic relationship. So our breakup was abrupt, as I had said. And when I'd come back from my trip out to my sister's, I told him my plan. My plan was, I didn't really say I wasn't going to fill up his bucket anymore. No one wants to hear that. But I said, if you want to know what's going on in my life, what I'm doing, essentially the how was your day, dear stuff, you're going to have to ask. No more am I volunteering what's going on in my life as like a bid to be the first one to connect. I had been going first for 9 years, and I was done. And I told him that many times because he sucked at asking. He's a little better now than he was, but I still left today, not in my normal attire of just going about running errands, and he never asked where I was going. So I didn't tell. So we just kind of began this relationship with surface connection, surface conversations. I'm fostering a cat right now, and most of our conversations is about the cat. But we're polite, we're respectful. I'm a damn fine roommate. I clean up after myself, I don't touch his stuff. And we do still have dinner together occasionally, or he'll make a big pot of oatmeal and I'll scramble a few extra eggs. I live mostly upstairs. He lives mostly on the main floor. It's weird, though, to look at this man that I knew and loved and gave so much of my heart, my time, my energy, my focus, the focus of my goodness and my life giving to him, and just going, nope, not anymore. I disconnected on purpose. And a really crazy thing happened. It was different types of weird along this last while. The first weird was, you know that if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it really make a sound thing? Well, I'm a dance teacher, and oftentimes I have nice wins with my students, and they say something nice to me. And I'd usually come home and tell him. Immediately, it would be something good. I'd fill his bucket. But now, it was kind of like, if something good happened to me today, they said something nice to me, and I don't immediately pass it on to someone else. Did it really happen? And yeah, it did. And yeah, it was meant to be for me. I was the one that was meant to absorb it and receive it and not immediately pass it on. And when I did the cold turkey of no longer saying, I'm not investing in us, and I'm not investing in you, and that means I am not filling your bucket. That's your bucket, your problem. What happened was I got to start to fill up my own bucket. And I hadn't realized that I'd spent so much of my life, starting with my mom, followed up with him, entrenched with him because he asked for the help, denying how I felt. It was like I'd abandoned myself and didn't even know it. I was always trying to be like a Tigger to their Eeyore. It's a good image, though, isn't it? Bounding on up, trying to cheer up the woe is me person who never got cheered up. So I tried. But now I gave up and went, no, I get to be the real me. And I get to fill up my own bucket and let it be absorbed by me, which was, of course, what it's meant to be. So even though I'm sure from the outside, his friends thinks it's pretty weird that I'm still there, and I'm sure he has all this from his family too. I think part of him is letting me stay as kind of a payback for the years upon years of crap I put up with, like the detoxifying night sweats, the unremembered conversations and the broken promises, all happens with an alcoholic. So I think he kind of goes, well, the least I can do is let her stay while she gets on her feet financially. And I kind of think he's right. So I'm staying. And we've got to learn stuff that we wouldn't have otherwise thought. So again, his friends and family might think it's weird. I really don't care. My friends actually know that it's been good for me. Good for me? Being around awkward stuff? Well, yeah. I thought at first, okay, I'll just learn about personal boundaries and mature in some ways. But what really happened is our relationship didn't get to break. It had to transform. he'd have to speak about how he transformed. But for me, I transformed by no longer connecting like the fire hose of my life into him and being able to bring it back to me. And again, of course, the most wonderful thing happened. Rather than living my life with a view on how to share it with others, it's now my life for me. Now, I always thought I was really like living the right way, healthy and normal, because I thought that connection was the most important thing, connection with others. It's in our DNA to connect. And I think I'm right. And I think we're still supposed to connect to ourselves first. So that's what I think I'm doing now, finally. Just finally starting to fill my own bucket. It's almost like I have secrets now. I'm a woman of mystery. He doesn't know where I went today. And if he doesn't ask when I come back, he'll never know. It's actually kind of cool. I don't know how I'll be when I start dating again, but I'm thinking this mystery is a good thing. At the very least, I'm going to go, you are a separate person from me. My energy is mine. Your energy is yours. But when I actually now filling my own bucket up, of course, I actually have more to give others. And I think I'm starting to do that. Maybe the healthy way, finally. Maybe. It's a new thing to just fill up and give because I can, but knowing that I'm not filling the other person up because I don't think they can or because I think it's my responsibility. Now, I think I'm just giving because it feels good to give, like being here tonight. Thank you.